Hey parents, late bloomers win too. Help your kids stay in the game and play the long game by keeping them engaged, motivated, focused on this episode's edition of Snapshots, a hockey development podcast. Thanks for tuning in this week. Again, this week is always brought to you by Mr. Lemon Wax for the right grip, tact, feel for your stick. Mr. Lemon Wax, grip and rip it, the best wax in the business. Also, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, join a huddle today. Check out them online. There's huddles almost every state across the country. You can become a member of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Now, the initial introduction for this show, late bloomers, let's talk about them. We just had the NHL Draft, and one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard about in the NHL Draft this year was the story of Jaxon. Let's talk about it. Jaxon was born in Miami, grew up in the Cayman Islands, never skated until he was 12 or 13 years old when he moved with his family to Canada, only played roller hockey. Yep, now we look 5-6 years past that moving date to Canada, and he was selected 32nd overall by the Ottawa Senators. Yeah, he's not expected to make an impact in the NHL next year, but the management of the Ottawa Senators look at him as a high ceiling player with unlimited potential. And that's pretty amazing when you hear a story like this, which happen all the time, by the way, but we don't always hear about them. Players who started a little bit later than others had a different pathway to get to the success they were looking for, and now we're experiencing that success with an amazing future ahead of him. Back in 1993, you had Ed Jovanovski, 1994, 93. He didn't play organized hockey until he was 11 years old, another Canadian, played over 1,100 NHL games, was a captain, first overall pick in the NHL Draft. You have players like that, and Jaxon is going to be one of those players that we talk about for a long time because of his unique pathway to the NHL. So what is a late bloomer? Everybody has their own definition, but early success is not potential. The players who at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old are the best players. Those aren't necessarily the best players at 18, 19, 20. Puberty has to hit. Once you get past puberty, that's when you start to see those late bloomers. Now, some early success can translate into later success, but it's not always the recipe for absolute perfection. Early success is not potential. So to encourage your player, all right, let's say you have a son or daughter who is he loves the game, but is not an elite player, and you're investing a lot of time, energy, and money, but they love the game. Paradigm you got to pursue, parents, is these 6 tenets. Number 1, play the long game. Play the long game. Recognize that this is something that they enjoy, something that is fulfilling to them, something that is teaching them life skills, how to be on a team, how to interact with other teammates and coaches. So those are all positives. Whether they're having the success or not that they want, or scoring as many goals as they want, doesn't really matter. What matters is that they're engaged, they're enjoying it, they're learning, they're improving. Number two, continual improvement. You're seeing kids make successful steps each rung of the ladder. They may not be the power play guy or the number 1 player on the team or the captain, but they're still making those improvements each year. Oh, my kid, he scored more goals this year. Oh, he was listening to his coaches more. Oh, he dressed himself and tied his own skates. Those are all levels of improvement. So if your child, son or daughter is making those necessary steps, that's good. Parents should also encourage athleticism. Jaxon, if he never played any sports until he was 12, 13, would be a different story. But he played a lot of roller hockey, and he played all sorts of hand-eye coordination sports in the Cayman Islands. So when it came time to him to just add a layer of the ice onto the hockey he was playing, it became much easier. You've got to have overall athleticism if you want to develop into a hockey player. And I've seen so many kids plateau because they lack that. So parents, point number 3, keep your athleticism and enhance your players' abilities by engaging them in more sports, more activities, and things that they can use in all of their endeavors. They got to have good coaches. One of the great stories we always hear about is Austin Matthews. Born and raised in Arizona when hockey wasn't necessarily the big fish out in Arizona. The Coyotes had just come to town, but he had an innate natural ability to play the game, and he loved the game. So his parents hired a famous international coach who had spent time in different parts of the country to be his private lesson instructor. You see that with guys like one of my coaching pals who owns the Wolves here with me, Tim Kuhns. He was raised on Long Island by a great coach by the name of Alexei Nikiforov, who developed Darius Kasparaitis and Dinas Zubras, in the small outlying country of Lithuania in the 70s and 80s. So getting good coaches who can teach your kid the right way, that makes a big difference, and that's an added advantage. Habits are super important. Kids often overlook what habits really mean, but habits are, is your kid spending more time in front of the TV? Is your kid, not listening to coaches? Is your kid being a crappy teammate? If you focus on having good habits and good interactions, they can make teams progressively, and they can take knowledge from those coaches progressively. And when they get to that peak stage of 17, 18, 19, you'll find more often than not those habits have led to success. And then the sixth point I would really encourage parents is praising improvement, keeping it fun for the kids. Wins or losses come and go over the course of a youth hockey career, but if your kid loves you at the end of the day on the car ride home, they're probably going to, step into another car again someday soon. So praising that improvement, praising when they do something right, or when they exhibit good teammate characteristics, or if they listen to their coach and implement something that in their game. Those are things we should be praising. This year, my son, Barron, he was always a kid who kind of struggled to get himself dressed. But that fear of missing out a little bit when he put him into the locker room with his teammates and he's watching kids who are maybe a little bit smaller than him, maybe a year or 6 months younger, and they're starting to get completely dressed, that encouraged him to, I got to get dressed too. And that became one of our biggest things we focused on this year is, hey, Bear, look how much you come this year. Last year, you weren't even getting dressed at this time. I was doing all your taping, all your shoulder pads, putting your helmet on. You can snap your helmet all by yourself now. Right? There are small steps that every player is doing that is worthy of recognition and praise. Here's some good examples of late bloomers. Tim Thomas, NHL Stanley Cup winning goalie, Vezina Trophy winner, really didn't become his best self. His best NHL career occurred in his mid-30s. He played in the East Coast Hockey League. He was a player who was discarded a couple different times, but he became all-world, best goalie in the world, Vezina Trophy during that 2011 Stanley Cup run with the Bruins. Martin St. Louis, undrafted, NHL MVP, Hart Trophy winner. Now he's doing great things with the Montreal Canadiens. That's a player who was smaller and was looked down upon with his potential, but who stayed with it, developed his game, and really became one of the standout players for a good 15 years in the NHL, one of the top players. Now, what hurts late bloomers? What hurts? If your kid is not that standout player at 9, 10, 11 years old, they may look around the room and be like, I don't know if this sport for me. And it's up to you as the parent to change that dynamic, to say, well, are you enjoying this? Are you having fun? Did you have a fun season? Well, then let's keep playing. And not to have them worry about the success or lack thereof in their young career. Malcolm Gladwell's book, the 10,000 hour rule, I believe it was called Outliers. He also looked at, in addition to that 10,000 hour rule, he looked at birth month in hockey. And this is an important thing to remember. The vast majority of NHL players, if you look at birth dates, are born in January, February, and March. And it's very, very difficult for players because of the cycle of birth year in the sport, for players born in the back 6 months, July, August, September, October, November, December, to have early success because they're competing against, in some cases, kids that are 11 months older than them. And when they haven't gone through puberty yet, that can be a huge difference in their abilities, in their cognitive awareness, in their motor skills, in their hand-eye coordination. So focusing on the positive with your kid and letting that puberty take place so that they can be encouraged and engaged. And then post-puberty, they can really accelerate their games because now they're more or less on an even playing field. So that hurts late bloomers, but if we use it with an understanding of how it works, parents, it can be used to your benefit. And then panic and fear of missing out. We're getting towards the middle of the summer here. I'm seeing tons of parents take their kids to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tournaments every single weekend or every single summer throughout the weekend. And I scratch my head sometimes, playing a one-more tournament, getting, 6, 7 minutes a game, because oftentimes these are running time tournaments or 12-minute periods. That really doesn't do a ton for you. But it could have them miss a birthday party, or it could have them miss a beach day, which kids need that stuff too. If hockey is beginning to look like work, and we ourselves don't always love going to work, then stop it. Do something different. Encourage other things and other activities, and they'll come back to the game as long as it's making it fun for them. And when they pick it up on their own, pick up their stick, they're going to feel more encouraged to, I can get my 100 shots in today. Hey, Dad, look what I can do. And those are all really positives. And then better people. Just have your kid, have these conversations with your kid. What did you learn today? Who played well? What could we do better? Those kind of conversations that nurture a dialogue between parent and player helps them become better people. Instead of pointing fingers and placing blame, or whether we win or lose, or taking all the credit, have them focus on what's important. Better players becoming leaders. That's really important. So in summation, mom and dad, listen to these words from a person who's seen kids experience a lot of burnout and seen kids plateau who were early success stories, and seen kids develop late who are late bloomers. Every kid's path is different, and it's up to us to nurture whatever type of kid we have. We maybe didn't win the genetic lottery where our kid's going to be 6'5" and run like Bo Jaxon, but they can find a spot in this sport. They can find love for the game, and it's us to nurture that and to coax that along. So thanks for tuning in today. Remember, check out all my available content. The Hockey Development Hub on Substack, Scoring Concepts on YouTube. There's so many I've added like 15 more videos this week of drills and different ideas. So make sure you check that out. The AI Hockey Advisor. Still have people who've expressed a ton of interest but haven't signed up yet, asking great questions. But you're asking me, ask your advisor, the AI Hockey Advisor, www.aihockeyadvisor.com. And then check out my camps on www.scoringconcepts.com. Snapshots Hockey Show, which comes out on Friday on YouTube at 1 p.m. And then make sure, check out on Amazon. I got a ton of books I put out recently that I'm super excited about. We have so much content and information for parents and players to develop their game, and I'm really proud of all the work we've put in over the last couple months. So thanks for tuning in to Snapshots. Remember, late bloomers matter too, and if your son or daughter is a late bloomer, think about Jaxon Cover. He's a great example for so many young athletes out there. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week.